before I pass over to the students, this course was designed originally to be our undergraduate course. Our students from our undergraduate course very, very rarely apply to do the MA course. They normally just go straight to work. This course were for people from other courses who want to have that kind of intensive vocational training that we provide at RWCMD. We're very good at getting people up to industry standard, and we kind of acknowledge as having a reputation for that. So our fundamental aim is not to produce an academic course. It is not a course which is based around, one aspect is, but it's not about a time where you develop yourself and have theoretical concepts and meet occasionally a tutor to talk about your process. The first year is intensive tuition. It's about moving you into an area of work that we want you to excel in. Ultimately, we want you to equip you with additional skills. We want to introduce you to a community of students who are from a really diverse background, culturally, cultural, ethnic background, and also pedagogically where they've come from. So you will get architects mixing with fine artists, mixing with people who've done a theatre degree, with people who've done an English language degree, in the university. So that dialogue between the students is equally as important as anything we give you. We're very proud of the course, and we're very proud of the students we produce and the students who come to our college. And that's kind of me doing my generic nice thing. I can answer questions afterwards, but what I would encourage you now, I'll let the students speak. I haven't written their scripts. I couldn't give you that pledge. They haven't been specially picked out. Shane is a course rep this year. Anola was an MA student from last year. And Sabs volunteered for this because she just likes talking about college, Cardiff, and the life in the college. So I'll pass you over to the first is Sabs, I think, Louisa. Over to you, Sabs.
Hiya. So yeah, like Sean said, I'm in my third year at college at the moment, and I'm a costume specialist. And there was an email being like, do you want to help on the open day? And I was like, why not? But basically, I'm just going to talk about living in Cardiff in general and like my experiences. So I moved from London like 2 years ago, and it is like a big change. Cardiff is a lot smaller of a city, but it's actually, I think that's one of its like benefits, because it's a lot more like intimate, and it's also like, it's just nicer to be around, and there's a lot of like bars and clubs, and there's actually like a very big like social life in Cardiff, and like there's things that you can do if you want to do them. Like I've gone to like pottery classes, exhibitions, like gone seen different shows. They have a lot of musicals that come and do tours in the Millennium Centre, which is down in the Bay. And it is just a very nice city to live in. And in terms of like the college experience, college has like student experience, which deals with like student support. So you can go there and you can talk to, there's a woman who works in there called Kate Williams, and she's like, you can talk to her about study support, academic support, financial support, mental health support. There's therapists and counselors linked to the college that there's an email, and you just email them, and it's like completely separate. And then they can also do things like put things in place so your like tutors know things. So for example, I'm deaf in my right ear, and like all of my tutors knew that. So then it made it easier for me going into the classroom, because they already knew I didn't have to like go in and explain things, which is really nice. But yeah.
Fantastic. Shall we move on then to Shane? He's going to talk to us about our typical week/term on the course. So Shane, over to you.
So I would say typical week/term is a loose turn of phrase, because I would say every week is a bit different from the last. You can expect to be at college roughly from 9 to 5 or 6 Monday through Friday. And in terms of what you're doing during those hours, it depends on what module you're undertaking. So to kind of go back to what Sean was saying, in this past term for me, we started with 2 weeks with Rory, who is our props guy, and we got to learn all about mold making and technical CAD skills, stuff like that. And then we moved on to a week of doing large paintings with Jen up at the scene shop, which was really great. That was followed by concept art, which was all Photoshop and digital skills. And then we moved into our production block, where for the next 6 weeks, we worked on constructing and painting the sets for the 3 shows that were being performed at the end of term. And then this term, we've spent, the set and costume specialist spent 4 weeks doing a studio project that we just wrapped up the 2 Fridays ago. And now we're on to our opera design project. And what is nice about the design projects is that you have tutorials with your tutor, but more or less you're kind of running on your own schedule, which is good because it kind of forces you into the responsibility of knowing how you need to work, what you need to do to get it done, and the best way that you function as a designer. And also during those times, you work with a director and a design tutor to kind of guide you through those design processes. And I think that covers a lot of it for a typical term or week. Yeah, it varies, which is great, which I really like about it because it never gets monotonous. And in a good way, you're never working on a project for, too long, quote unquote. So yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Jane. Orla, back to you now. Design opportunities on the course.
Yeah, so my name is Ola, and I had an architectural background, so just to make sure that you can still make it if you're not from theatre industry before coming here. So I would say that the design opportunities, they kind of grow big from a small start, because as Sean said, when you first come to college, you are more concentrated on getting those technical skills. And the first small project that you are getting, or that I got, I'm not sure how it is right now or how it will be, but was basically 1 line of a text, and we were meant to do a model box connected to the line of a text, and we had tutors working with us and helping us and showing us some model making skills. And then we moved on to scenic work for productions, which were taking place in college. So this was a very good moment for us to just learn a lot about different materials and different techniques. And for me as a designer, it was something really important, because as also Sean mentioned it before, that it's not just a conceptual course when you just think about how to design stuff, but you also actually learn how to get it done. And I really wanted to avoid just being a designer who is imagining things but doesn't really know how to get them in real life if it's possible. And because of that time in workshop, I feel more confident, and I feel it's very important that we get it. And you also see the production process more closely, especially if you work with a designer who is designing a show, if you are a communicator for the show. So you're already kind of getting to know the production that you will design in a few months, which is good. And then the actual design projects are the 2 conceptual projects that Shane mentioned before, which is theatre and opera. And I think even though they are conceptual, they're really good because there is always a director assigned. So you got all the meetings as well. So it looks like real life. But you also have tutorials with either Sean or Patrick who teach you how to do stuff and what to discuss with your director on your meetings. And what I did was I didn't go after those 2 conceptual projects. I didn't go straight to designing my production, my realized production. I went to assisting a friend. So I assisted Molly, who is my course mate, and it was I felt more confident than realizing my own production in the next term, just because I knew already the process, I knew what meetings will happen, and I was also still helping her with design itself, because I would be making some drawings for her, some parts of the model. So also I had a design impact in it, but just a small one. And then this year, so when I started, I designed my realized production over the summer. So when we started the 2nd year of MA, which I'm on now, my production actually happened, and it was an amazing opportunity to work with the director closely, but also to meet other creatives. So it was the very first time when I could work with sound designer and lighting designer, as well as with the home management team, and see what are their tasks, what their job is, and also just work with the workshop in case if you are designing set, because if you are designing costume is slightly different, but you also work with all of those groups of people. And now it's all about just getting the website and portfolio and dissertation done, but you still are in good hands, because there is always Sean and other tutors who will kind of help you with looking for external placements. So I think this is also the big highlight of this course, that tutors actually help you to step into the industry. Yeah. And that's it, I believe.
Lovely, thanks, Ola. We're going to open up the rest of the section for questions. So if anyone has a question, feel free to raise a hand or take yourself
Louisa,
off
shall I
mute.
start with some of the questions that have been sent in advance?
Sure.
They might be some of your questions. Oh, hang on, I just
Would you
lost
like me
them.
to? Yeah. Would you like me to read them out to you, Sean? Because I've got them up.
No,
ready.
I've got them in front of me now. That's okay. So here's one, which is: my degree is product design. Therefore, my current portfolio is based around projects. Would I need to remake my portfolio for design for performance? And the answer to that is no. We look at the work that you bring in, and we talk to you about what it is you want to achieve by coming on a design for performance course. And it's very much, the evidence of your design work is usually clear and apparent in product design, in fashion design, in fine art. We can see, the quality that you're bringing, and we talk to you about that work and the potentials that you bring. There's another question here: are there any particular skill sets you expect PGs to have prior to application? How closely do the design departments work together during the course, i.e.g. costumes and scenics? Skill sets, again, varied. They come all sorts of skill sets. It's kind of our job in that first term to get you to have the skills to work on production. And absolutely the next part of that production, that question is, costume and scenics will work together. They get, so the overarching group of MAs get to know each other really well. And that's something we're looking to develop further. They share some classes, some master classes. They do presentations to each other, and they work together on production. So that's a really crucial point where you get to know each other. And the skill sets, we don't expect you to have all of the skills, but you'll have an amount of them, and you will share with others what those skills are. What kind of opportunities are available during and after the course for you to create a production? You, as Ola referred to, and Shane, there are at least, some people get at least one production. Some people are lucky enough to get two, one small one larger ones. And we work to get you production placements, industry placements during that second year period. That's kind of a big factor to why actually during the pandemic, most of our graduates got work straight away, because a lot of them, they trained not as costume specialists, but a lot of our MA set and costume designers ended up working in Willow, a Lucasfilm's big major TV series, and they work breaking down costume. So they use their paint skills to work in the department, but also their application and their kind of attitude towards work was absolutely appropriate for the film and television industry. So those are the questions that were sent in advance. I hope they're of some use. If there are other questions to me or the students, please put your hand up or put them in the chat.
I've got a question, if that's okay.
Sure.
Just about the relationship between the BA course and the MA course, and how, and is there like much conversation between the two? Is there much, or are they quite separate, sort of the design students from both?
I'll let the students answer this because they'll tell you.
I can jump in and say a bit that when our MA group was in the scene shop, painting and building shows, they were all shows designed by third year BA students. So we got to work with them pretty closely. And I was working on a kind of prop costume build for one show along with 3 other third year undergraduate students. So we kind of all worked together. So it was very nicely mixed. And I would say in our first few weeks, the first year MAs and the first year undergraduates got to know each other pretty well. So I would say we, talk regularly, see each other, mingle, stuff like that. And everybody, I would say, is really sociable with each other, so it doesn't feel like a kind of great divide between the groups.
Paula, Sabs?
Yeah, I completely agree with Shane and his opinion on it, because also like there's like social events that they do. So in like the first term, after some of the big projects are finished for the first years, the second year's plan and initiation that all the MAs go to, and it's like a place where we can all like get to know each other.
Yeah,
and
you
then,
have to explain that initiation. It's not something terrifying.
yeah, it's not something to be scared of. It's just basically a big party with a theme and like
Costume.
so like my year is like 7 deadly sins, but then also like within just like because you're all working in the same spaces, you do just like talk to each other. Like me and Shane one weekend in college when we were both working on something, that's I think how the first time we properly spoke. And then like a lot of my closest friends on the course are MAs, costume MAs, because we spend so much time in the workroom together and stuff like that. So you do, because of the way the course is set up and the how you do things, you do end up just naturally forming like bonds and friendships with people.
I think that's very much a part. We're I mean, it's not that small a department, but we're very family orientated in that sense. I think, you know, the same tutors work with the same students a lot of the time, so you also identify people with common interests. I mean, it's not a problem. Because of our MA numbers growing this year, we got another studio, but it is geographically not part of the bosom of the design department. But we'll hopefully change that a bit in the summer. But however, there is still enough interaction between both cohorts to and obviously the workshop spaces and the paint shop spaces and the wardrobe are completely shared between everybody. So yeah, it's very much a really important factor that students have a commonality. You share cross-disciplinary talks as well, don't you?
Yeah.
I think so. We have a masterclass series that the students share. Any other questions?
Thank you.
What's your background, Miriam?
I'm actually a stage manager.
And you're thinking of crossing the border?
Yeah, yeah, from the dark side.
Do you know what quite often happens with, it's a good thing, stage management students who come to do the design for production course, or not design for production, the design for performance course, quite often end up going into film and television and working in art departments because they're taking those managerial skills along with, you know, the artistic ability, but that kind of ability to manage projects. And that's very much also true in like, we're very successful with our graduates working in film and TV in that they're probably less sort of specific CAD scenic designers, but more the people who are running the departments or working in that side of the departments, because they've got very good interpersonal skills and they kind of have an understanding of all the areas. So they understand construction, they understand scenics, they understand props. So they're really good at interacting in that sense. And the same within costume, the costume supervisor's role, which is like really, really important, but it's at its heart is a managerial. So they'll be the person who gets the high specialist maker to be making the costumes on it, and they'll manage it and they'll shop for them and they'll do all of that. But that we're really good in that. And our senior costume lecturer is just one of the best at teaching people that.
That's really reassuring that I haven't like shot myself in the foot.
No, not at all, not at all. We have we've got a fantastic reputation with Limbury Prize, and one of our BA graduates from the year before last who'd come, I think a parent from a stage manager, so she'd always like been caught between the two worlds. We always said she's going to work in film and television. She got straight out into doing something on EastEnders initially, and then she got in touch saying that she was really angry that she hadn't got through to the Limbury Prize. And I said, "What are you doing anyway?" And she said, "I couldn't have worked on it. I'm doing a TV with Disney, but it's just I wanted to get through, so I said I'd got through." And I was saying, "Oh, stop being so ridiculously selfish." Rose, Roxanne, Jess, anything?
Sorry, I was going to ask, could you expand a bit more? Because I've read a lot about Royal Welsh being in the Limbury Prize and having a lot of success in it, and I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about like how is that like a big encouragement thing on the course that you've had so much success on it?
Okay. The history of that goes back some time. When I took over the course with an aspiration to introduce an art school training into a drama school, that was my interview, was my big push at the interview, and I got the job. And within the next Limbury Prize, nobody had ever heard of Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama. Next Limbury Prize, we had 2 winners out of 12. And actually, Lady Sainsbury came up to talk to me with Pamela Howard and said, "What are you doing? You know, what's the background?" And I explained my background. And I'd actually worked for a lot of the leading designers, 15 years ago. I was an assistant with them, and I'd had that pedigree and background. And I explained what I wanted to do. They actually invited me to be a part of the Limbury Prize Committee, in the terms that I'm one of the people on that who represent the schools. So we interviewed companies who want to work on the Limbury Prize. I have nothing to do with how they choose the prize winners or anything like that, but I'm part of that because they recognize the fact that I saw the importance of the Limbury Prize. Subsequently, we've had lots of successes over the years, and we attract people to the college who are interested in Limbury because they can see the successes we've had. And in the last 3 Limbury Prizes, of the 36 finalist winners, 17 are from the college. So we've had 6 winners and 5 winners, going back in that kind of chronological thing. What happens now is we recruit people because they've seen the exhibitions in the National Theatre. Quite often that's one of the things, so people will go to the National Theatre, see the exhibition of the Limbury Prize and go, well, hang on, there are 6 from Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama. One of our 3rd years last year, who was equally annoyed that she didn't get through to Limbury Prize, who is, but Constance is brilliant, but she probably just had too many projects in her portfolio. But she came to us and never heard of us, but she saw the exhibition in the National. So we treat theatre design really, really seriously, but we equally show the same respect to film and television. So that we changed the course title probably in 2007, I think, from theatre design to design for performance, which properly reflected what we do. And subsequently, a lot of our competitors have changed their course titles to the same as ours now. I think it's the strange thing is you get a lot of tuition, and it's not come on an MA, pay your fee and carry on your thesis, or come up with, you are taught and you're challenged in a good way. And you work with directors who are challenging. We don't have a house style. We absolutely don't. We don't have a mantra of this is how you do it. We show people ways you can do it. We talk to them about doing it. But ultimately, the thing that makes us proudest is when one of our students confounds us and does something in a way that we wouldn't do it as staff, and yet we can completely appreciate it, that it's exceptionally good, and it didn't come from anything we'd ever taught them. I mean, that's the really exciting bit. When you give people the skills, the support to allow them to come up with something that is completely uniquely, individually theirs, and that's what I suppose we aspire to the most. Yes, I have, which I think doesn't benefit Ola, but probably will benefit Shane, is we had a derogation if I get the validation, the derogation in the TMA, which meant that you had to get a distinction in your dissertation. And I've managed to write that out, but it won't be in time for you, Ola. Not that you may write a fantastic dissertation, but I always thought it was completely ridiculously unfair that was part of, the only way you could get a distinction, because we have had people who've been distinction level students who didn't get a distinction in their dissertation or their thesis, and they didn't get an overall distinction. However, as I say, the academic bit of it is less important to us, but it seems to be on a more level ground if you do it that way. Any other questions?
I don't know if this is already covered, but how many people are usually on the master's course?
Right. So I am at the moment, I'm trying to separate the pathways really clearly. I mean, you don't see them enough when you do generic searches. So we have about 7 or 8 pathways, if not more. But we have a set and costume design, which is kind of traditional British theatre design. There is a set design, which leads to, in America and China, you may have people who just want to do set design, but it also leads towards people working more particularly in film and television. We have costume design and costume construction. We have props design, which is coming up. We have scenic arts and construction. We have, then we go into video and lighting and other pathways than that. Our target for all of those is 22 students, 21 students. The problem we get is if we get mainly one pathway applying and we need to take 22 students. So this year, I think we have 11 across set design and design for stage and costume, I think.
There are 11 of us that work quote unquote set and costume design, but I think a few of them are leaning more towards just set.
Yeah. And Ola's year, I think it was 7. So 7 was usually kind of the thing. We'd normally have about 6 costume. We usually have 3 puppet designers. We'd have 2 or 3 scenic arts and construction. So at the moment, application, it's really, be clear about what you are applying for and talk about that in the interview. It's quite interesting. And then we can steer people along particular pathways. Shane's quite fortunate this year. We've got a very small third year. So the division of designs going into next year is we've only got probably 12 BA3 designers. Sometimes you have 20 of them and they all want to design shows. So that's the bit where it gets a bit knotty, but then we break the shows up and we do 18 drama productions, 2 big opera productions, 2 small opera productions, 2 musicals, site-specific puppetry, and we make short films, and we hope to make more short films. So we produce a lot. So there's a lot of opportunities to apply our design. But we're really hoping to be able to, and again, it won't make that difference for you because you're already in here, but we need to make sure that people are aware of all these different strands, because people coming in on one will suddenly go, if I'd have known about that puppetry one, I would love to have done that, but they didn't apply for it. So that's kind of where we are. Does that answer your question? So yeah, we've had it, we're 11 seems a lot in that particular pathway, but it's not really, is it? Because you get a lot of tutor attention. So the projects that Shane's talking about, there's a main tutor, there's usually a director working with them, and then there's auxiliary design support. So there's model making or CAD support. So there's usually three members of staff engaging with you in different levels of contact.
We've got just over 5 minutes left, so if anyone else has got another question, feel free to jump in.
I have one more question just coming off that, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So my course, it was a bit weird because if you were the designer, you were also automatically the constructor and the painter, and they're 2 very different things, I know. But it's just because you're talking about the sort of the different strands of what you do and how people sort of go, if I'd known that you could offer this option, I might have gone through to that. And you were talking as well about having different people cross into during when you're actually doing the practical side of it, there's that mix. So I guess to an extent, when you've got the set design combined with having a course that's purely on scenic arts and construction, is there a lot of crossover between, if you're doing the design, you're just drawing it all out and learning how to do the sort of drawing and that, or do you have to go into that construction?
Our designers will always be involved. Probably not on this show they design, unless they really choose to. Like Ola was involved to it because she was in a part of a small team. Shane will probably be in a part of a bigger team. So you may be involved in something because you absolutely have to, because you're doing a smaller scale show. But it's not it's not, it's not a guarantee, sorry, what's to say, it's not a given that you will be made to do that. We do encourage, wherever possible, that the designers are in the rehearsal rooms as much as possible as well, so they get to be working with the directors, and that they're not just stuck in a workshop for 4 weeks realizing the work. Ola?
Yeah, I wanted to say that I had this kind of production where I needed to be in the workshop, but I still managed to be in the rehearsal room because this was like my goal, to see how the actors work, and especially that I had this kind of strange space, let's put it this way. Then I needed to be very careful what they do, and they really wanted my attention as well. So I did both, and I really enjoyed it. So it's possible to get both things done. And I think that you still need to be involved in the workshop to some point, because you always will have discussions, a lot of discussions with people from workshop. So that's why I said that it's very good that on the first year you get this small module in the workshop, so you know how to get things done and what you can achieve, and then you can use it when you're actually designing your show, just saying to other people who will work for you that, oh, I wanted it done this one this way or that way, you can skip this or skip that, that's fine for me. So yeah, but it's, you can do both. You can do both rehearsal room and everything. I feel like I've tried everything during my production. Yeah, which is good.
No, thank you. That's kind of a relief to hear, because there's some courses that just go, you just sit down and draw it. So it's a really nice thing to know that you have that.
No, I think one of the most absolutely the most important thing that we produce at Royal Welsh is you'll have an auxiliary skill. You'll always have something else. So it's not just one thing you're good at. You can get work in other areas because you know about, so like most designers will be able to paint. They may not be able to build brilliantly, but they could build a bit. But they could make props. They could carve poly. They can do things. They can. So they're. I mean, it's based on mine, but a lot of our colleagues' lives. Until for a long time, and I did build a lot of my sets, and for a while, and then I remember the point I stopped doing that, and I actually made costumes. I made one complete set of costumes once, and I'm like, don't like doing that, so I never want to do that again. But it was really good to understand it. And then I did for a long time. I used to paint, and I used to do the really nice prop things. So if I was doing Christmas shows or panto or children's shows, I would like make the really nice props, and I'd do a lot of the painting. And then there was a point when I was just so busy, and I knew there were people probably better at me at painting, in all honesty. And you thought, well, if I don't paint it, I can maybe design another show. So you ended up then, so that's why you start identifying these people are better than me. And so you get, even then, the point where you get design assistants to work with you, and they make a large part of the models. But then the thing I would always then still do is make the very small things. Ironically, I'm a very big bloke, but I like making tiny figures and small items of furniture and things. Yeah, but I would say all of our graduates have a number of skills that they can get employment with, or they can and brilliantly transferable skills as well.
Okay, we've only got a few minutes left. Any further questions anyone has?
So in case as well as if anyone's missed it, if you have a question you want to discuss more privately, you can contact admissions@rwcmd.ac.uk, and we'll answer any questions there as well. It's in the chat as well, if anyone wants to write it down really quickly.
As well as a link to our Instagram page.
I just have one question about studio space, and whether you, if it's like just when you're on shows, or if it's like a more permanent thing, or.
In the first year, you'll have your own space all the time for projects. You don't just have a studio. If you're not designing something, you don't have a space which is yours. There are project rooms, and you'll rotate around those. You've pretty much had a project room all the way through this year so far, Shane, haven't you? That you've been in 318.
We last term we weren't really in the studio that much.
You were in the workshop.
That's just because we were, with Rory or up at Lanishon. But this term we're all in there pretty much all the time. So yeah.
And it's funny, Ola and myself are having a correspondence about something else. In the second year, sometimes it would be nicer to be able to come in and do some modeling, but I don't think you've actually asked me about that, have you?
Oh no, it was like I did it a bit over summer, but
Yeah,
obviously
no, but
because I was designing.
I'd find you a table in the third year studio if you want some.
Also, that I know that some other people complain to me, and I'm like,
They need to ask, because what we will do then is we'll try and fit them in. And there's like for information in this conversation, first years, once they've completed wearable art, go down to do the big prop sculpture. So their studio becomes a place that you can drop into as well.
no, I remember that I always had a space when we had a project, like just like you said, that you have a space and then
It's
just
nice. The
clean it when
second
you
year
finish
is
project.
much more independent learning, but part of the thing about that kind of second year fees is looking at.
Yeah, but I just wanted to add that also, even if you are in your second year and you still want to assist, because you can learn a lot from assisting, you can still assist other students, and you can do it both with MAs and BA students. So there's also the time where you mix with other people.
Yeah, totally.
Or
So
my friends do as well.
Yeah. That's kind of an internal placement instead of, or if we can't find you external placements that are always internal placements, or you're then focusing on your Limbury Prize, your dissertations, etc., etc. But it is very much, each pathway can be completely individual and bespoke depending on the requests students put in. So Shane wanted to make something in costume, so we got him to do the wolf's head on Grimm's Tales, and it's all about communication, of which I'm going to be sending Ola invitations for websites this week.
Lovely. Right, we've come to the end of our session, I'm afraid. But as Kate mentioned before, if you have any questions for us, send them to the admissions email address, and we'll put you onto the relevant person then, whether that be a student or Sean or someone else in the department. Also check out the Instagram page as well. Obviously, this is a very visual course, you'll want to see that. But thank you very much for joining us today. Thanks for taking the time. And we hope you'll all apply to us, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Very
Thanks,
much.
everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.